Hey guys, thank you for joining us at the PWZ podcast. It's the Big Cat Andy Nichols along with Professor Rick Del Santo. Man, we got a treat for you tonight. We got former Ring of Honor TV champion, the man known as Notorious Shane Taylor.
That's what you see what I'm saying? That's better. You see what I'm saying? You come on, you have me on. That's a better introduction. Also, CEO of Shane Taylor Promotions. You know what I mean? The baddest of all time. However you want to say it, but that's how we kick this off. Great job.
You got a lot of monikers. You got a lot of names.
Hey, man. A lot of names, all synonymous with being the baddest of all time and champion. You know what I mean? That's how we get down.
The knockout punch, baby.
Hey,
so Shane, you mentioned Shane Taylor Promotions.
Yeah.
Now the current members are you got Rev Ron Hunt, right? And he's he's your next in command, right? The COO?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right hand man.
All right. And who else are we rolling with? You got Khan
and Moses as SOS, the Soldiers of Savagery, future Ring of Honor World 6-Man Tag Team Champions should be already. Future World Tag Team Champions, you know what I mean? We also have O'Shea Edwards, Big Bad Kaiju. He's about to get into the fold here. And we're looking to keep expanding and bringing in some more talent in 2021.
And Shane, we also we have to mention you're a year older now. You just had a birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Appreciate it, brother. Yes, sir. 35. It's crazy. You know what I mean? There's times in my life where I didn't think I'd live to see 21. You know what I mean? So to be sitting here at 35, 2 kids, house, living, dream job, it's crazy.
And how was your Christmas? You have a good Christmas too?
Yeah, man. Christmas and the birthday were both super low key. We just chilled at the house, opened gifts. My daughters drew me some pictures and wrapped those for me. Wife made a good meal. Just sat back. It was real low key, just how I like it.
What's a good meal to Shane Taylor? What's a good meal to Shane Taylor?
Ah, man, it depends on the event. But if we're just talking, birthday, nice steak, a good potato, maybe some peach cobbler for dessert. You know what I mean? With or without the ice cream, it's all good. But yeah, that would probably be my go-to. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you, what's your favorite cut of steak? I know it's a random question, but that's important.
That also depends on the event. If we're talking like Monday through Friday or Monday through Sunday, you know what I mean? A nice ribeye is great. But if we're talking an event like a nice porterhouse would be great. You know what I mean? Delmonico. You know what I mean? Nice. Because I got turned on to the Delmonicos a few years ago, and I was like, oh, these are incredible. You know what I mean? So those are good. Nice medium steak. Yes, sir.
You're on a whole other level. What do you think about Delmonico's? Now I gotta go Google that when I get off this interview.
Hey, man, listen. Being on this platform, having some success in life, these are the privileges. You know what I mean? You get introduced to things like this. Delmonico steaks.
So did your girls have a good Christmas? What was like the most over gift in the household?
Man, my daughter got an I Promise book written. I think it was made by LeBron James and his team. And she got a doll. I can't remember the company name for the life of me. But both of them were representation style gifts. You know what I mean? With the doll, you know what I mean? The first thing she said when she opened it was, "It looks like me." You know what I mean? And to have her understand and be able to start teaching her now and her understand more about her background, her heritage, her ethnicity, and finding beauty and honor and respect in that, and having her be able to see and read books and have things that she can look at and see herself in them in a positive way. It just makes your heart smile as a father, and that's what I try to do. Not only to teach her those lessons, but carry that into what I do in the ring. And that's what, is the driving force behind Shane Taylor Promotions, is being able to teach those lessons and showcase myself, my community, my culture in a way that is positive and in a way that hasn't really been done in professional wrestling up until recently, and now we're seeing more and more examples of it, and I couldn't be happier.
Now, it's been a real big year as far as people waking up to everything that's going on in this world. Right. Rick and I are both in interracial relationships. That's not easy for me to say, but, so it's like we both have mixed children. So, yeah, you definitely want to make them aware of all their cultural inclusions that make them who they are. And through the movement this year, how has Sinclair Broadcasting, have they been supportive of the talent expressing themselves about the movement?
I think so. I know I had a talk with a few people and really wanted to stress the importance of having that roundtable talk that we had with myself and Kenny King and Caprice and Ian to really talk about some of the issues that we face, not only as just performers and being wrestlers of color, but just being men and being black in this country. The double standard that's set in society doesn't really fall that far away from the double standard set in wrestling, and so it's been very important on my part to be able to stress that and teach that message and fight for change, not only in society, not only in my community, but in my sport, because we have to lead by example, and professional wrestling closely mirrors society, as most sports do. So when you saw the Attitude Era, you saw the change in society, you saw the change in the product, right? And so with this, we're starting to see more and more people understand that your black wrestlers can be just as marketable. They can be just as big box office. They can be just as important. You can make just as much money as anybody else on your roster when you take the time to understand their culture, understand your talent, market them, and put them in a position to be successful, that the characters that we have and the characters that we are have just as much depth, have just as much complexity, and can be, seen as heroes or villains to everybody, just like our counterparts, and it's very good to see so many people finding that voice and standing up for themselves and being aware of the situation that's been happening, and you love to see it.
Now, another question I have for you that pertains to that, there's this whole mentality you hear, like ignorant people say, "Oh, just dribble the ball. We don't need your opinion."
Right.
What would you say to those people, as far as as an athlete who voices his opinion on such matters?
Okay, well, I can give you the political answer, or I can give you the real answer. You know what? I'll just give you both. The real answer would be they can kiss my ass. The political answer would be most people that think like that are very misinformed as to the level and the degree in which they are ignorant to history and the truth. And the truth is, you'll accept the fact that other people can comment on these issues and they have nothing to do with politics, whether it's your doctors, your mechanics, your whoever. But when it's people around you that have nothing to do with the experiences of the issues, you'll listen to them all day. When it comes to the people who are living this and telling you this and have done so for generations, it's like, oh, well, your opinion doesn't count because you're successful. People don't understand. Success is not indicative of the trials and tribulations you've gone through to get to that point. Just because you're successful doesn't mean you've experienced less racism. It doesn't mean that you're lucky. It means that you busted your ass and succeeded in spite of. And just because one person has done that or a few have, doesn't mean that it's time to take your foot off the gas because you were successful. That's not how this works. You are now given a platform that you are able to help everybody else after you who wasn't able to be a millionaire basketball player, who doesn't get to have the luxury of millions of people hearing their voice. You now get to speak for all of them, you know? And that is both the burden, but also the honor of being a figure, especially from our community, because you have that responsibility. And it's one, as I've gotten older, I found to be of more importance because I understand more. As a kid, you know, you don't really grasp the magnitude of the situation. And then as you get older and you learn more, and I've challenged myself to read about history more, you understand how things work. You understand how the judicial system works. You understand how schools work and how history has been modified. You know what I mean? To the best.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So you learn these things, and then you understand the importance of having your platform and using it to the best of your ability to create the change that you want to see in the world.
See, Rick, this is what I love about Shane Taylor. If you're friends with him on Facebook, like, Shane puts his opinion out there. He doesn't hold back. And let's face it, as a black man in America, that's not always a safe thing to do.
Right.
But, you know.
There seems to be a trouble with people that seem to make it successfully, whether they're a musician, athlete, or whatever, about speaking their mind. And it's always just, you have a platform and you're just, people will pay attention to you more because you reach a certain amount of fame. You know what I mean? It's just, a lot of normal people seem to look down, I wouldn't say normal, but people, I mean, look down on that. And I don't think that's necessarily appropriate. Am I making sense? Sorry.
Yeah, true.
You know, I know I rambled. I'm sorry.
No, this is the thing, right? Like, there's a very fine line, right? Because wrestling is one of those things where people want to escape when they watch sports, right? And I get that. And there's a level of entertainment value you have to bring. The caveat to that is, once those lights go off, I'm still a black man in this sport. I'm still a black man in this country. I don't get to take a break. Right. We don't get to take a break, right? We don't get an escape from this. This is what our reality is. So the best thing I can do is try to show these examples, teach these lessons in an entertaining way. But at the end of the day, I still understand who I represent. I understand what eyes are on me. I understand who is looking at me. I understand the obligation that I have, and it is to progress and move the bar forward, open these doors for other people to walk through, because that is what's necessary. We've had generations that have had success and seemingly forgot about everybody else behind them, right? So then you kind of get into this restart, and it's always harder when you have to restart instead of continuing to push, right? So yes, I've been successful. Yes, other people have been successful, but we're still not where we want to be. And for me, you know, I can't even claim to be and to achieve the success that I really want until I win the top prize in Ring of Honor, and that's the Ring of Honor World Championship. So, and even then, the fight's not over. You know what I mean? It's just, these are the steps that we're trying to achieve. And when and if I'm able to do that, that can show generations of kids, of wrestlers, of my peers after me that, hey, you can do this. You don't have to be a stereotype. You don't have to be put in a box. You don't have to be some caricature of black culture. You can do this the way you want to do it your way, and still be successful and reach the very top of the mountain if you're willing to put the work in, no matter what anybody says.
All right.
Now, Shane, I'm gonna recommend something to you. Do you have Amazon Prime by chance?
I do.
Okay, I want you to look up, if you haven't already, Sweet Daddy Siki, Siki. He's a old school wrestler, okay, and he was a black man in the 50s who blazed the trail that you are now following. You know, this man, he was wrestling at Madison Square Garden. I don't want to spoil it. but it's a hell of a documentary. And he came from a family of sharecroppers, and he really had a rough background. Then he made it in pro wrestling. And you'd be surprised when you watch this documentary how ahead of his time he was in an era where black people weren't always looked upon so fondly by the audience. And I want you to check. No, let's keep it real, right? Let's keep it real.
You know what I mean? That's and stories like that are fantastic. And I use guys like Sweet Daddy Siki and like Jack Johnson as an example, the first black heavyweight champion. When you look at the story of Jack Johnson, he was a damn maniac for what he was doing at that time. Woo, boy, you know what I mean? Like crazy stories, like he's riding through this town, he gets pulled over by the cops. You know, he's the heavyweight champ. The cops fine him $100, and that's back in that day. You know what I mean? For going going excessively fast. He looks at the cop, hands him double it, and says, "Hey, well, I'm gonna be going just as fast on the way back, so here's that too." Right? Like in that era, bro, with like that kind of just gusto, you know what I mean? And just balls to be like, look, this is who I am. He's out here, you know, with women he's not supposed to be with, you know what I mean? Doing things, saying things he's not supposed to do, but he's the baddest man on the planet at the time. And it's, you know what I mean? Just, you know, like you look at guys like that who are just so unapologetically them and understanding their place. Even when you look at guys like Ali, right, who understood the platform that they had and used it to the very best of their ability. That's why I always, when people talk about legends and being the greatest, I'll always tell them Ali was better. Ali is the greatest, not because of what he did inside the ring. And what he did was incredible. But there have been people who have surpassed him in ring greatness, right? But there is nobody that has surpassed him for what he's done for the culture and for the sport outside of the ring. That's why he's such an icon. That's why he's such a legendary fighter. And people now, when you have the benefit of hindsight and history, everybody is on the Ali bandwagon now, right? But then he was one of the most hated men in America. He was a communist. He was a traitor. He was an extremist. He was, you know, draft dodger. He was all this stuff. And then once people realized, oh, he's correct, now it's, you know, oh, he's the greatest. But that just shows you, you know, people will eventually realize what side of history they should be on. And if it's necessary for those who are leading this charge to take that brunt of the backlash, to take those consequences, then that's what we have to do as leaders in order to, you know, really make the change that we want to see.
I applaud you again for being so open about it, not hiding. You know what I mean? You're wide open, dude. But you're speaking the truth, and that's admirable.
Man, I wasn't raised to be meek. I wasn't raised to be a coward. You know what I mean? Like there's been so many people who had the ability to lead, but were too scared to, right? Because of the consequences that could happen. You know, just like you alluded to earlier. They see what happens when someone steps out onto that limb. But if no one steps out, nothing changes, right? So kind of just got to go and do what you know is right.
Now, Shane, who was the first wrestler? We're going to get into wrestling now. Who was the first wrestler that caught your eye? Like, for me, it was Jimmy Superfly Snuka. The first time I saw him on TV, I was like, wow, this guy, you know, and I was hooked ever since. Was there one guy for you that got you hooked?
I don't think there was one guy in particular, but once I started watching it, there were a lot of guys that I looked at and were like, oh, man, like, that's cool. Like, I grew up a big kid, too, so, like, I was never going to be the guy with a six-pack, so I never really could relate to guys like Warrior or Orndorff. But once I saw, like, Stan Hansen and Vader and Ron Simmons and guys who were just big dudes just beating the piss out of people, like, I was like, oh, I can do that. You know what I mean? Like, hell yeah. So to be athletic, to be a big guy and just go out there and just dominate opponents and just be mean and aggressive. That was right up my alley, you know. And being a huge boxing fan too, I take elements of some of the wrestlers that I've seen and some of the fighters that I've seen and take things that fit my personality and mold what Shane Taylor is, you know. So you have the aggressiveness of a Stan Hansen and a Vader, but you have the in-ring tenacity of a Mike Tyson, the ability to speak like Floyd and draw you into a fight, and yet the social responsibility and the heart of an Ali, and you bring that all in one package, and this is who you get.
So a young guy like yourself, and your story is pretty well documented as far as your upbringing and your father's lifestyle. I don't, you know, I'm not going to rehash everything. You can touch on it if you'd like, but at what point, how do you say, well, you know what, I'm going to try this wrestling thing out? Now, where do you go? How do you start? How do you go about that process?
Yeah, I mean, to touch on it for a second, you know, my dad was doing a lot of things he shouldn't have been, but as well as my uncles. But again, people don't understand that when you don't come from that life, your values and your thought processes are different. When it comes to survival, people aren't as law-abiding as they think they're going to be. You know what I mean? It's easy to say when you grew up not wanting for anything or even struggling a little bit that, oh, well, I wouldn't do that. When it comes to survival, you absolutely would. You absolutely would.
Baby's got to eat, man. Baby's got to eat.
Exactly. I'll tell, like, we can all agree murder is wrong, right? But if I ask any parent worth a damn, hey, if it was somebody harming your kid, would you do what you had to do to save your child? Absolutely you would. I would think less of you as a human if you didn't, right? So we can all agree, yes, things are wrong, but in exigent circumstances, you do what you have to do to survive and to feed your children. So when you come from a city like that and a family like that, where that is the thought process, it's hard for me to fault people doing what they have to do in order to see tomorrow, right? So once I had that talk with my dad and he, you know, wanted me to do better and be better, went to college, first member of my family to do that, went into college, was doing that until I ran across independent wrestling. I was living in Pittsburgh at the time and ran across a company called the International Wrestling Cartel. And up until then, I didn't know independent wrestling existed. I had always just assumed, you know, it was WCW at the power plant or however it worked for getting into WWF at the time, you know. Once I saw that, I was like, oh, this is possible, right? So there was a tag team called the Cleveland Mafia, a guy by the name of Jerry Myers, a.k.a. J-Rock, Give It Up One Time, and then Ray Rowe, who we all know as Eric from Viking Raiders fame now. So I got in contact with them. I had known Ray previously from high school, so caught up with him and let him know that this was something that I was interested in doing. We talked. They saw that I was coachable, that I listened, got with them, and the rest is kind of history after that.
You know, I definitely wanted to talk Ray Rowe because he's somebody who's been a major part of your career throughout from step one, correct?
Oh, 100%. Without him, there is no career. There's no Ring of Honor. There's no TV title. There's none of this. You know, there's no Shane Taylor Promotions if he's not there. So he's been extremely integral in what I've been able to accomplish. And I owe him more than I could ever repay him.
And he's got a baby on the way, so that's awesome news too.
Does baby Cash coming? I like
cool.
it. I like it. I can't wait. I can't
We
wait.
love kids around here. At least I do. Right, Rick? We love kids.
Yeah, sure. No, I got a small one myself. I got a 5-year-old, man. So kids are great, but they
And,
could drive you a
man,
little crazy sometimes, man.
you know what I mean? But I wouldn't trade it for the world.
So
Absolutely.
so you were in the Pittsburgh, Cleveland area. So you probably worked with the guys like Lou Marconi. I think I saw you worked with. Did you do some work with Zoltan Kenjugan?
Yeah, I've been on shows with them, Lou, Zoltan, Bill Collier, John McChesney, all those guys. You know what I mean? Guys that are extremely talented, um, and just dominating that scene and have been since I started. So it's great to see them having continued success. I think Lou is retired now. Maybe Zoltan is too. I'm not 100% sure, but
I don't think Zoltan's ever going to retire. To be honest with you.
maybe he won't. Maybe he won't, and I don't want to put that on him. You know what I'm saying? Nah, I hope he rests until he can't anymore. You know what I mean?
And when I moved down here to North Carolina about 12 years ago, Lou had just moved down here and he was working down here. So I've interacted with Lou quite a bit too. I haven't seen him in a while though. But yeah, it's a pretty cool scene. There's a lot of notable names from that scene. And do you still stay in touch with Ray Monroe or no?
Oh hell yeah! Me and him almost daily. You know what I mean? Same with Keith Lee.
Cool.
Just keeping tabs. You know, and it's good, especially in this sport, right? Where when you're in certain positions, you can't just vent to whoever, right? Because as much as people like to say, "Oh, we're a family," everybody's still in competition, right? There are sharks everywhere. So it's good to be able to have people that you trust, that you can talk to, vent your frustration, bounce ideas off of, and be able to have that place to kind of let it out, right? So because there's definitely been times where, I was like, man, this is what I want to do, and they're like, I wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? Or like go about it this way, and that's been the better call. Because more than once, I probably would have stepped on a landmine and blew everything up. You know what I mean? But it's awesome to have that safe space to be able to get that out and be able to approach things with a clear mind.
As a parent, I got to ask you, having two daughters, did they change the way you do your business? In other words, like instead of blowing up at the moment, did they kind of cause you to take pause and say, wait a second, I got a bigger picture? Because I know that happened to me in my life when my children came along.
100%. I am a person that does not shy away from confrontation. I don't go looking for it, but if it happens to come across my path, I'm not moving out of the way. You know what I mean? So that having them definitely made me rethink some of the things that I do, and I'm not so quick to act as I was a few years ago, for the benefit of myself and society. You know what I mean? So yeah, having them, people have gotten way more passes than I would have ever let them have, 7 years ago. You know what I mean? But
No doubt.
like,
Rick, you got anything? I still got some more, but I feel like I'm doing. I don't want to overstep my boundaries here, Rick.
Go for it, Andy. I got a couple questions that'll probably go a little bit further into the career. So go for it.
You did bring up Keith Lee, and I'm glad you did because I wanted to, but I didn't want to just kind of hotshot all the big names, But you and Keith Lee, you looked like a really promising tag team, and it kind of fizzled out relatively quickly. Keith left the scene in Ring of Honor. Was there any animosity, or did you feel any tension when he left? Did you feel like you lost an opportunity, or was it your time to shine at that point?
Not at all. Me and him had talked, and when we formed the team, the main goal was for us to both get jobs in the sport that we love, right? Optimally, right? Ideally, it would have been in the same place together, right? But never, like, regardless of how it happened, the goal was achieved, right? So there was no animosity. When I talked to him about what he wanted to do, he had multiple reasons for the choices that he wanted to make. I understood every single one of them. And I told him, hey, man, your job is to do what's best for you and your family, right? It is my job to be a star with or without you, right? So I still have to do what I have to do, whether you were standing right here by my side or if you're gone. So that nothing changes on my end, right? And we can see, you know, like the path that his career took him all around the world. He's won championships. Mine has taken me all around the world, and I've won championships. So, you know, it's the only downside and the only thing that I look back on is some of the matches that we could have potentially had, right? Because I know now that some plans were in the works for us to maybe work with the Young Bucks and the Briscoes more, right? So to be a team for only less than 2 years and essentially be able to cut our teeth in the Ring of Honor tag division, which has been one of the very best, you know, for the last 20 years, would have been great. And matches between ourselves and the Young Bucks, who knows? I mean, like that would have been some epic stuff there. But other than that, than stuff like that, man, I'm so much prouder and happier of the paths that we've both taken. To look at small stuff like that, it's almost a non-issue.
Can we give a little love to the Briscoes? You just mentioned the Briscoes, and I think they're like the most underrated tag team in pro wrestling.
Oh, it's damn near criminal. It's damn near criminal that when people talk about the greatest tag teams of all time, that they don't mention the Briscoes, right? And I know a lot of people do, but for those that don't, I would put the Briscoes up there with any team for being able to have the longevity, to be able to have the skill set, to be able to have the acumen for doing this, constantly changing and reinventing what they do while keeping true to who they are. You could throw out the Road Warriors, you could throw out the Dudleys, you could throw out whoever you want, and I will tell you that the Briscoes are right up there with them. The Bucks, the Revival, whoever it is that you want to name, the Briscoes are right there.
They're not done yet. They're not even done. They're still going. They're still going. Very strong. Sorry.
Have you ever seen footage of their early years back in like the early CZW days when they were like 15, 16 years old with the singlets?
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's amazing to think that these guys. It really is. But now, Shane, also something else happened. I guess about a year ago, maybe, or a year and a half. There was a point where word was you were going to leave Ring of Honor.
Yeah,
and you were a free agent, I think, at one point. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And it didn't look like you were coming back.
Mm-hmm.
What changed your mind? What made you say, no, I'm going to stay with Ring of Honor?
Unfinished business. I am an individual who likes to achieve the goals that I set. And there are multiple goals that I still have left in Ring of Honor. And with the creation of Shane Taylor Promotions, with the restructuring of my deal, with the ability to have the highest paid per fight deal in the history of ROH, to be able to have my guys with me, the guarantees that were given in that deal, that's allowed me to feel better about coming back and continuing to make the kind of history that I want to make. 1 second.
Yeah. Right.
No, love you.
Love you.
That's
my
daughter.
Man, I love it.
Yeah, so because for years, right, it's been the stigma has been that someone like me, who is as brazen, as loud, who is as boisterous, who is as opinionated, would never have the opportunity to reach the top of the mountain in Ring of Honor. I've heard that from guys that have left. I've heard that from guys who wanted to be here, who wanted to come here, but didn't for that reason. And if I wasn't here, I wouldn't be able to change it, right? So it's my job to be able to show everybody, those who thought it couldn't be done or wouldn't be done, that it is possible. And the only way to do that is to be right here and make that change myself. So that's where my mind is. That's what was going through my head as far as the decision to stay. And not only success for myself, but to be able to bring guys up with me, to be able to bring Khan and Moses their first championship gold in ROH. That was supposed to happen at Final Battle, but it couldn't due to the virus, right? But that's my job now, to be the leader that I want to be. It's not enough for me to be successful. I have to bring everybody else with me. That, to me, is what leadership is all about. So showing them how to win championships, showing them how to set their table, showing them how to lead by example. That is what my goal is now. And I think we're well on our way. I think 2020 was able to show a lot of people what they could do, and they opened a lot of eyes, and they went from guys that people weren't sure about to guys that people damn near are anointing future Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champions, as they should. So that was my biggest reason, for coming back, is to be able to finish the business that I started.
And you still have some business to handle with EC3, don't you?
Yeah. I mean, we won that match. So as far as my business with him personally, I'm not a hard guy to find. You know what I mean? So if he wants it, he can get it. Him being sick and out of Final Battle allowed me a opportunity that turned into the biggest win of my career. We didn't have the chance to compete for the 6-man titles. Jay Briscoe didn't have an opponent, and Shane Taylor versus Jay Briscoe at Final Battle. That's a main event on any pay-per-view. But to have that be the silver lining of the whole situation, I'll take that. And to be able to have a win, I think you can count on one hand the amount of times that Jay Briscoe has been beaten on a pay-per-view of that magnitude. And I was able to add my name to that list. So now we're 1-1. You know what I mean? So I look forward to the rubber match. And
was EC3's an Ohio guy, isn't he? Did you guys ever cross paths in the past, or?
Yeah, he's from Willoughby. We ran in similar circles, but never really the same one. So we were kind of always watching each other from afar. We've had a few interactions, but to see how our paths have taken us has been very interesting. He's at a point now where he's starting to see the same things that I've always known, right? And our mindsets, are the way we go about scouting our opponent and learning things about the way we approach things is very similar. So I am anxious to see what his next move is. I'm anxious to see what his plans are and what he does going forward. And as long as what he's doing doesn't get in the way of what I'm doing, then we'll never have a problem. If it does, then I'll handle it.
And Rick, we're going to get into Rick's question. I know Rick.
Well, you already asked one of the questions I had. That was about the whole Final Battle thing.
I wanted to segue into his championship reign and how he won the TV. Yeah. So I'll let you take that one.
Well, you at War of the Worlds in, was it 2019? You defeated Jeff Cobb and Brody King and Goto to become the television championship. Tell me about that, because that was that always seemed like a really intense match, and Jeff Cobb is no joke when it comes to, actually all four of you guys, no joke when it comes to that. But that's a serious lineup.
Oh, for sure.
For that match.
You're talking about realistically 3 of probably top 15 heavyweights in the world. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Maybe top 10, depending on your list. So to walk into that match with three men of that caliber, global superstars, and to be able to walk out with the title was a dream come true. You know, I talked about history and chasing legacy when I started watching Ring of Honor in 2007 when I started, and the entire history of it, there have only been two other men like myself who've been able to capture that TV title. That was Kenny King and Jay Lethal. So in my mind, those are the only two legacies that I'm chasing because our careers are going to be compared no matter how the three of us like it, right? They're going to be matched up together. So in order for me to reach the greatness that I want to reach and achieve the things that I want to achieve, I have to take steps like that, win championships like that, have my championship reigns be as meaningful as theirs were. And I think on that night, I took a step closer to reaching those legacies. And the looks on everybody's face in the crowd was, you know, you can't even describe that level of joy, of achievement, to be able to feel validated in that moment. And right away, I knew exactly what kind of champion I was going to be and what my job was, because, and you won't see it on the camera, right? But the first probably 20 rows, everybody's mouth is just dropped. You got people booing, you got people clapping, you've got people in shock. And in the back, there was probably a group of about 25 people, a bunch of black families, and they were just absolutely losing their mind. I'm talking about they're jumping up and down, they're throwing stuff, they are absolutely going bonkers. And it occurred to me right then that that level of excitement, you know what I mean, in a sport where traditionally black fans don't get marketed to the way we would all like. That moment was just as big for them as it was for me. And the amount of pride that I had that they were able to feel that much joy based off my accomplishment is immeasurable. So to be able to then take that win and turn it into what some say is one of the greatest TV title runs of all time, that makes me proud. And to be able to, again, be one step closer to chasing those legacies, you know, that's the goal.
Go ahead.
Just one more, and then I'll just shoot it back to Andy. You ended up at Death Before Dishonor that year. You ended up, you retained your title, defeating Dragon Lee, Tracy Williams, and Flip Gordon. Now, tell me about that match. How do you feel about that match? Because, once again, there's another four-way, and with the immense talent in that ring, I mean, it's another, big talent match. All four of you guys, man. That's crazy.
The old saying goes, big time players step up in big time situations, right? So pay-per-view, I believe it's Las Vegas against three of the best in the world. I had to step up, and being in a four-way, I won the title in a four-way. It would almost kind of be poetic justice to those who didn't want me to have it in the first place that I lose it that way, right?
Right.
But that wasn't the case, and I got the chance to retain and to once again sit down with those in charge and go, if you want this championship, you're gonna have to come see me, and come see me at the negotiation table, come see me at the pay window, so to speak. So, you're talking about three guys who could potentially be world champions at some point in their career. So, man, it was an honor to share the ring with them, but I had to do what I had to do, because I knew at that point, if I don't hold on to this championship, there is no way in hell they're giving me another shot at it. You know what I mean? So, retaining that was crucial.
How do you think Ring of Honor has been doing since the pandemic, like with their television tapings and their events, and obviously Final Battle just took place just a few weeks ago. So how do you think they've been doing as far as like handling everything during this pandemic?
I think they've been crushing it. You've got to
Yeah.
give credit where it's due. They've taken this time to not only continue to pay their roster, but they've made sure every protocol is followed to keep people as safe as possible. They've refocused and redone how they do TV. They've added more stories. They've given people more mic time. They've completely changed the production to make it feel like more of a big fight feel. And I think the response that it's gotten from the fans is proof of that. People are really behind it. They've gotten the attention of the wrestling world again. And now it's just up to us to continue to improve upon that and keep it. Everybody's been doing a phenomenal job. Every match, every story that we've told has been top notch. And I can't wait to see that momentum continue into 2021.
Is there anybody in that Ring of Honor locker room that you haven't faced yet that in 2021 you'd like to take on?
I feel like I've been in the ring with everybody on the roster at some point in some fashion. But if we're talking one-on-one matches, I want my shot at the Ring of Honor World title. So that's Roosh.
Yeah.
I mean, going into the tournament that we had, I slipped up against Brody King, but that's my fault. You know what I mean? I was sort of looking past, not looking past, but looking through Brody to be able to get to where I wanted to get to. That's my fault. You can't do that against a guy like Brody. He'll make you pay for it. He made me pay for it. But I won't make that mistake again. And now, if he was number one contender after that, that should have put me at number 2, right? Logically speaking. And then to step up and beat Jay Briscoe at Final Battle, a former 2-time Ring of Honor World Champion. I don't see how that doesn't make me the number 1 contender. I don't see how any stretch of logic doesn't have me as the next challenger.
Right.
So I want what's coming to me. That's Roosh. It's been 6 years that I've been in Ring of Honor. I feel as though I've earned the opportunity. I have been one of the top, if not the top and most consistent performer the last 3 years. I have been the MVP. I have said this. So for me, it's a matter of making it official. I've been the man here. Now we just need the crown to go with it.
Yeah, that's definitely like probably my number 1 Ring of Honor dream match right now is you against Roosh, because I'm a big mark for both of you guys. I'll be honest. I think Roosh he's Mexican. He comes from the Mexican luchador culture, but he's not your typical luchador. He's so unorthodox. He's kind of he's almost like a Mexican Bruiser Brody almost. You know what I mean?
Almost. And he comes from, damn near wrestling royalty. So his nobody is shocked that he's a world champion. The red carpet was sort of laid out for him when he got here. There was no red carpet for me. I had to kind of creep in through the back door. People don't even want me in the building. You know what I mean? But here we are. So my job is going to be to go out there, look him square in the eyes, and punch him in the face. And we'll see how many times he wants to get back up.
All right.
One other question as it relates to the Mexican style, the luchadors. You work with Dragon Lee. I hate to mention the name Bandito. You have a little history with him. How was the adjustment for you working that style, or working with guys who work that style, I should say?
I take a lot of pride in being able to adapt to any opponent in any situation. That's a mark to me of a good fighter. Whether it's boxing, MMA, wrestling, whatever it is, it's your job to adapt to your opponent. It is your job to be able to take their strengths and negate them. It is your job to be able to figure out a way to be successful and a way to win, game plan a way to win. And so whether it's me being in there with a monster like Brody King, or if I'm in there with some of the best high flyers in the world, like Bandito or Dragon Lee, my job is to find a way to win. And with guys like that, you have to ground them, you have to punish them, you have to take away their ability to change the pace and fly all over the ring like they want to do. Luckily, I have a style that's kind of tailor made for that. So I like having those matches because styles make fights, and you're able to create some really cool moments. But for me, there's really no difference in the game plan. It's go out, smash whoever the hell is in front of me, and again, see how many times that they're willing to take that and get back up.
Do you watch any of the current independents?
Not as much as I should, but there are a lot of talented individuals out there right now who are really making a name for themselves throughout this whole pandemic. So guys like Lee Moriarty, women like Trish Adora, O'Shea Edwards, Sugar Dunkerton, Big Shug, Darius Lockhart, Savannah Evans, Nikki Nicole Savoy, Ronnie Nicole. There's so many people who are absolutely crushing it. You know what I mean? And I couldn't be prouder of them.
Shout out to Ronnie Nicole. I love Ronnie Nicole. Really cool person. Richard?
I'm good, man. It's all you.
Shane, I guess we probably should wrap it up. What's next for you in Ring of Honor?
Man, depending on what Brass wants to do, they can give me what's supposed to be mine, and that's my shot at the world title, or they can keep playing games. You know what I mean? But it doesn't matter the order. The goals are still the same. The Ring of Honor 6-man championships, and the Ring of Honor World Championship. Those are my goals, as well as getting my guys to a point where they are able to grow, flourish, and eventually go after the Ring of Honor World Tag titles. So our goal is to do what everybody's goal is, and that's win everything. We want it all. I am greedy for success, and I want everything.
And I'm going to encourage the fans to go to Twitter, go to Facebook, any social media. I believe the hashtag is hashtag Choose Your Honor right now. And Ring of Honor is encouraging people to use that hashtag and tell them what they want to see. So you know what? Let's get it together, folks. Shane Taylor against Roosh. Let's make it happen.
Yes, sir.
Where can everybody find you on the social media?
Twitter and Instagram at Shane216Taylor, Taylor. Facebook.com/Notorious Shane Taylor as well. And if anybody is in the merch buying mood, I know it's, crazy times, but if you have the income, ProWrestlingTees.com/Shane Taylor, or ROHWrestling.com. Check out the pro shop there. Plenty of awesome designs, hats, anything that you could think of, t-shirts, that would make great gifts for your family throughout the holiday season, and going into next year. Just want to thank everybody for an incredible 13 years now so far. It's great. And looking forward to, another decade plus of doing this.
One more question. I know I said we got to go, but one more question.
No, you're good. You're good.
Rick knows I like to talk. Now with this whole pandemic and working in the bubble and everything, not working in front of live crowds, how has that affected your style and how you do things in the ring?
Only the first one was awkward, because after that, then it kind of, for me, allows me to focus in more. I'm not so much worried about what the crowd reaction is, what the distractions are. People talk and trash, and you look at them and be like, yeah, all right, okay. You know what I'm saying? You can push these buttons if you want to. Now, all of my focus is just on my opponent. It's only me and him. You know what I mean?
Right,
so
right.
I feel as though it's worse for my opponents because there's nothing to distract me from just beating your ass now. So that's where I'm at with it. Of course, we love the fans and we can't wait to have them back. But from strictly a fighting aspect, it's so much more focused in. You are so much more on your game. And I have the ability to just lock in and punish people the way that I feel as though I need to be successful. So I'm good either way, but of course we can't wait to have our fans back and hearing them make as much noise as possible. I'm sure the very first event that we're able to have people back in, it is going to be the loudest thing that we've ever heard.
All right, Andy, you all set? Do you have anything else you want to add?
Just want to say I definitely want you to win the World Heavyweight Championship in front of a live crowd. I think that would be incredible. And it would also, it would be great. But I also want to say, man, again, like I've said numerous times through this interview, you speak your truth as you know it, as you believe it. And I tend to think along the same lines as you. So I'm going to call it the truth. And don't ever let anybody prohibit you from doing that. You go to work every day, you work hard, you're out there doing your thing in the ring, but that should not keep you from having an opinion and an influence to help the voiceless. And I appreciate all that you do. And I'm a huge fan. I'm Mark.
Much love, guys. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for that, because there's a lot of times where you're like, man, am I the only one that thinks like, am I crazy? You know what I mean? But to hear other people go, nah, man, I think the same thing, right? That's awesome. So thank you.
Oh, one more. What's on the playlist right now? What's on the playlist right now?
That depends on what we're doing. If I'm getting ready for a match, more than likely, that hour or so leading into it, it's all KRS-One and DMX. It's me getting my mind right to understand who I am and to get ready to do as much physical violence as I can in order to be successful and keep this momentum going.
What about PE? You gotta like PE, right? Old school hip hop with the conscience.
Oh, of course. Like that's whether it's PE or Tribe or Outkast, whoever it is, Nas. A lot of that is like workout stuff or just cruising down the street, driving stuff. But when it's time to focus in, when it's time to go to work, it's X, man. He's my top three. He's my GOAT. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't feel like that, but for me, there's no one with better range, no one that can change their style up more, and no one that sends a more diverse message and it envelops more emotion than him. You know what I mean? So that is what it is all about. You know what I mean? So I challenge anybody to go look at his performance at like Woodstock and see there is like hundreds of thousands of people. There is a sea of people all moving to what this man is doing, and it is one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
Well, Shane, you got to promise us one thing. When you win the world championship, I mean, I know we're not busted open and we're not Jim Cornette, but you got to come back. You got to come back and talk to us when you win that world championship, please.
Hey, man, you got my word. I would love to do it. Would love to do it.
That's Ring of Honor's on every Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern on Fight. So keep an eye out, everybody. All right. Yes, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.